And finally, the last resource I want to show you is how to use Google to really get your hands on some useful resources. So I'm sure you use Google all the time. You've used Google for whether it's 15 years old now. I'm sure you've used Google hundreds, if not thousands of times. I've used it too, but there are some ways you can use Google sort of more efficiently just to get your hands on the types of information specific to your needs as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to go to Google myself. It's obviously google.com. And then, so once I'm in Google, okay, so I go to Google. I'm just going to type in here the same search I've been using all day, diabetes India. Oops, I can't, sorry, I still can't type or spell. So I get 54,500,000 results, orders of magnitude over our panic threshold of 100. And some of these are probably okay. So the second one that comes back here, this is actually from PubMed. This NCBI NLM.nih.gov is PubMed. So here's the International Diabetes Federation.org, which is fine. I don't know if this worldtime.com is Time Magazine or not. Here's the New York Times, pretty good resource, obviously. So I'm sure some of these are fine. Bloomberg is a reputable news organization too. So sometimes some of these are good, but other times I don't particularly like .coms. I like to try to get to sources of information I kind of find more trustworthy. So if I want to limit this down, if I go over here in the upper right hand corner, this little cog or gear where it says options, if I click on this, I can now start to tailor Google to actually suit my needs better. So I go down here to advanced search. I now have kind of more control over the search that I ran. So when I search for things like this, I kind of want, say, reliable scholarly information. So it's going to make this .edu. So now every one of these results that comes back is just from a .edu, so it's really just a university, and in most cases just University of the United States. So that went from 55 million, whatever it was, now to 159,000. And I can start to see, so here is Brookings.edu, the Brookings Institute. Here is Stanford Medical School, probably a pretty good resource, obviously. Here's Emory, here's Harvard. So you can really get down to really good resources themselves. If I just wanted to stick with, say, any of these schools here, so stay Stanford, so I see medstanford.edu. I can now, this is a live kind of search box, I could just make this so .stanford, or I can make it .med, or whatever the case may be. Stanford.edu, so now every result that comes back is just going to be from Stanford. So there's only 4,800 of those. So again, if I know that's a really good resource, and I'm sure Stanford's fantastic, I can limit down just that particular website. I can see this very first result that comes back is just diabetes in India. I guess it's some presentation that this person was giving. So, so in this case, it's not really anything I can read. It's just a website about that particular event. If I just wanted, say, PDFs from Stanford on diabetes, again, I can go back to that little cog. Now it moved. It was kind of here a second ago, and it was a different color. Now after you click on it once, it kind of jumps around the screen, which is a little bit weird. But again, my advanced search, if I just wanted, say, a PDF from Stanford on diabetes, I can say here just PDF, advanced search. So now it brings back 50,000 things, but it dropped out weirdly enough, the Stanford part. I don't know why, but it did, but that's fine. So I can just see here, so I can just put Stanford back in there if I want to. And that file type PDF is still there. Okay, so there's only 473 of those. So information about diabetes in India from Stanford. So maybe this one here, this South Asia burden of non-communicable diseases. So this it looks like a journal article from BMJ, the British medical journal that was on some website at Stanford. Really shouldn't do that, but that's beside the point. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not really worried about copyright in cases like this if somebody else does something wrong. You doing something wrong as a BU student, that is my problem at Stanford, not my problem. This probably shouldn't do that though. Again, maybe this health behavior in developing countries. This could be a syllabus maybe, but still, it looks like it's just a paper that someone has written. So again, this is a resource you can use. This is fine. You can also do things, so say, so we don't want necessarily Stanford or PDFs. You could also look for a PowerPoint, whatever type of document you wanted. Depending if you were doing a presentation, you just wanted something you could use yourself. You just want to make sure, of course, you would cite that properly, but you can find out, I don't know if there is one, but so you can certainly see there are PDFs out there too from Stanford, which are great. Or you could just, again, you could just be more broadly. This is just, again, .edu. So Stanford keeps dropping out, which is weird. It doesn't normally do that. Google is just being a little bit fussy today, but whatever, it's not important. So you can certainly do that. A few other things you can do is, say you wanted to go to the WHO. So I'm just going to go up here. I'll just do it in Google, I guess, while I'm here. So I'm just going to say WHO, the World Health Organization. So WHO, of course, is a great resource, great information, but I really honestly don't feel like their search engine here is that hot. It doesn't really do a lot for me, honestly. So the address is this who.int/en, for obviously the English version. So if I go back to Google, and if I were using Google Chrome, I could just toss it in here, but I'm using Firefox, and I'll explain why in a second when I get to the very last part of the presentation. So I'm going to go back to Google again here, just google.com, obviously. Again, I'm going to do a search for, say, Diabetes India. Same thing again, go back to my little advanced search up here. So I can actually just search one specific web page if I want to. So I just want that WHO/INT/EN. So now it's just going to search the WHO for information about diabetes in India. So interestingly enough, it's just this one resource here from, I guess, the main page, which is kind of weird. So let me try this again. I'll just take off the EN part, maybe it's just making it narrow down too much. Okay, so that's a little bit better. So there are 4,500 articles just from the WHO. And I can see here, so just here's WHO INT. So again, here's prevalence, which is great. That's kind of maybe the kind of information I'm after. You know, statistically, and again, epidemiology, perfect. This is right here. This is exactly the kind of information I would want. So it's really nice that you can always use Google to help you find the kind of information that you want. And especially things like this with prevalence that, that can be really hard to find, and it's something you need in public health. So something else you can do, not only can you limit to one of these types of pages here, but once you start to really get into this, so another good type of site to use, I can say site.gov. So this is just going to be from governments, government websites. If I wanted just, say, Indian websites, it'll be .gov, I think it's .in to get to India. So you can see that all of these results that come back, this is now all from India itself, the country of India, which is fantastic. So again, this is really great if you're looking for information from that country itself. A few years ago, I helped a public health student that she wanted to know about what you would do if you were a foreign national living in Japan and you were about to give birth. So kind of what rights or privileges or medical care do non-Japanese citizens living in Japan get from the government when they give birth? So it's a pretty esoteric question. Obviously, a lot of the information there would normally be in Japanese. So you can also do something like that if you're searching for certain governments. It looks like most of this Indian information here is in English, which is great. But I could also go up here again with this kind of a search, again, the little gears for the advanced search settings, and I could just say language. So I could say if I wanted to with India, I just want things that are in English, which looks like most of these things are anyway. But that works too, it's just being weird. Sorry, I don't know why it's being so weird. It's not really remembering the kind of search parameters I'm setting up here, but you can certainly do that, limit just to English. You can also do things, I don't really use this that much, honestly. I guess it's my fault here, that's why. And again, English. So just kind of remembering certain things from other searches is kind of weird, but whatever. So all these that come back are in English, which is nice. I can also do things which I don't really think as useful, but you could also look at the reading level, which is kind of more beta-y. So you wanted to see kind of the, I guess it's not here right now. So maybe they took it out the last couple of days, but they used to have kind of the reading level of the material that came back, but it was a beta, so maybe they just took it out, which is perfectly fine. It's not really that useful. And you can also do something too. So all these searches I've done so far, just like with this .in, you can also, if you want to, just go to the region and see what Google looks like from that particular country, but that doesn't limit just to servers in that country. It just shows you what it would look like if you ran a Google search in that country. So things like PubMed would also come back up. Whereas if you limit it this way to that site or domain to the .in, it's just going to show you things from servers in India. So it's a really nice way, looking at only local information you're looking for, again, like epidemiology or statistics, just to limit to, say, in this case, government websites in India or just India itself. And that's going to bring back the kinds of information that you need. If you don't know the domain code for India, which I've just done searches like this, numerous times, the easiest way to find those out, you can just Google. So I can just say here, top level internet domains. And you can see the search right here. I think this is actually a pretty good list that comes back here from Wikipedia, because it does things, not only does it tell you the names of the different domains and country codes, but it also shows you the flag. So we get this question quite a bit that Germany, people would just think Germany is .ge. It's not, sometimes they use the actual country's name for itself. So Germany is .de for Deutschland. So if you didn't know that, you just typed in .ge, you're not going to get Germany. But you notice here they show you the country flag. So if you're not sure, you can just look for your country's flag as you're going through. And you see, so Switzerland is CH. You have that kind of local spelling or cultural interpretation of that name itself. But we do know if you go through that, most times though it is kind of obvious. So like Japan is .jp, France is .fr, the United Kingdom is .uk. It's not really surprising sometimes what the country is. And here India is .in, and there's the Indian flag. So that's a little trick we always use too. If you're not quite sure what the country code is and you're doing that, limit to just that particular domain for the country, just Google top level internet domains, come to this Wikipedia page, look for your flag or Control F for the name of the country, and you'll find it no problem.